The city I chose for my project is Frankfort, Kentucky, which also happens to be the capital of Kentucky. Frankfort has been the capital of Kentucky since 1792, when the state was founded. It was chosen because of its proximity to the Kentucky River and its centrality to Kentucky's two biggest cities, Louisville and Lexington. So let's take a look into the capital and some of the attractions that populate the city today. Of course, the main attraction to Frankfort, Kentucky is the new Capitol building. The new Capitol building started construction in 1904 to replace the old Capitol building built in the 1800s. There's more about that building later. The building was finished in 1910, and it features a large rotunda similar to the U.S. Capitol building. The state capitol houses members from all three branches of Kentucky's government, and it's a popular place for prom pictures. When the new Capitol building was built, like I already mentioned. It's the third building to house the state's capital. The other two buildings burned down previously. The building contains freestanding stairs that are only supported by the outside building walls, which is pretty cool. It's now a National Historical Landmark. The third landmark was built to add beauty to the new Capitol building. It is the Floral Clock. It was built in 1961 and it stands on the lawn of the state capitol building. At first it was mocked by many when it was built, but it soon became one of the most talked about and visited destinations in Frankfort. It's composed of 10,000 flowers and it weighs about 91 tons, so don't try to move it now. The Governor's Mansion is our fourth landmark. It's housed Kentucky governors since 1914. It's both a private home to the governor and it's open to the public, and one of the few governor's residence that is like that in the country. Kentucky's current governor, Matt Bevin, lives there right now with his wife and his 9 children. Liberty Hall is our fifth landmark. It was built by Kentucky Senator John Brown in 1796, meaning it's almost as old as Kentucky itself. Well, construction continued on into the 1800s, however, and Brown moved his family in 1804. It continued to be the residence of the Brown family until 1934, when Brown's granddaughter died and left it to her brother, who then sold it on to a group who made Liberty Hall into a public place, and now it's pretty popular to have your wedding there. The Orlando Brown House is our sixth landmark, and it happens to sit right next to our fifth landmark, Liberty Hall. It was built by John Brown's youngest son, Orlando Brown. John left his land to his 4 sons, and Orlando decided to build his house right next door to his dad's house in 1835. Landmark, and it is the summer home of one of Kentucky's first families, the Todds. It's also called the Buena Vista. Robert S. Todd acquired the house through his wife's family, and his daughter Mary, who also spent a lot of time at the house, would later marry Abraham Lincoln. Going back to the Brown family, our 8th landmark is the Frankfort Cemetery. It was built by one of John Brown's sons, Mason, his oldest son, in 1844. It houses some of Frankfort's oldest families, and it also houses the graves of Daniel Boone and his wife, Rebecca, but there is some dispute on whether or not their actual bodies are there. It overlooks many of Frankfort's other landmarks mentioned here, including the new Capitol building. Old Good Shepherd Church is our 9th landmark. It was built in 1850 and held the Good Shepherd Parish until 2011, when they moved to an east of Frankfort location. It's been associated with the Good Shepherd School since its creation in Frankfort. Now it's a historical landmark that can be rented out for special events like weddings. Sawyer Public Library is our 10th landmark. The library is named after a famous Kentucky artist, Paul Sawyer. I don't know a lot about Paul Sawyer because he was a very private man and didn't write a lot about his life in diaries and such. The new library building was built in 2006 and is right next to the old building that was built in 1887, and the old building was actually one of the old Frankfort courthouses before it was the library. The Singing Bridge is our 11th landmark. It was built in 1893, and it's a 2-lane bridge that goes over the Kentucky River. What makes the bridge unique is that it makes a humming noise when cars drive over it, and that's due to the unique metal grates on the bridge deck. About 6,000 cars drive over the bridge every day. The Buffalo Trace Distillery is our 12th landmark. It was built in 1792, meaning it's as old as Kentucky. It was not known as Buffalo Trace until 1999, however. It's known for its tall water tower with its logo on it, featuring the buffalo. Buffalo Trace produces about 2.7 million gallons of bourbon per year. The Franklin County Courthouse is our 13th landmark. Franklin County was created in 1795, 3 years after the founding of the state of Kentucky. Its seat is in Frankfort, which is where the courthouse is located. Franklin County has had 6 courthouses in its history, and the most recent one being built in 2011. The first courthouse was built in 1839. Our 14th landmark is probably the tastiest. It's Rick's White Light Diner, which was built in 1943 and is Frankfort's oldest restaurant. The chef and owner is Rick Paul, who creates authentic Cajun dishes for the visitors of the restaurant. The diner was featured on the Food Network's Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives with Guy Fieri. Our 15th landmark is the Franklin County's Farmers Market. It's located at the Riverfront Park Pavilion. The Farmers Market is open Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. Now, the unique thing about them is they offer programs for people with SNAP benefits, in addition to offering fresh produce and goods for the residents of Frankfort. Our 16th landmark is the Vietnam Memorial. It's the only landmark we'll talk about today that is not in downtown Frankfort. The landmark was commissioned by Kentucky's first and only female governor, Martha Lane Collins, in 1987 and was built in 1988. It was built in remembrance of the Kentucky soldiers who died in Vietnam. Its unique design is a giant sundial. Capitol Plaza Office Tower is our 17th landmark. It's often referred to just as the Tower by the residents of Frankfort. It's the tallest building in Frankfort and the tallest public building in the state. It has 28 floors. It is also slated to be torn down later this year. Our final landmark today is the Kentucky History Museum. Its formal name is the Thomas D. Clark Center for Kentucky History. This year, the museum is celebrating 225 years of Kentucky history. The museum offers a look into what it means to be a Kentuckian and centers around that famous Abraham Lincoln quote. So there you have it, the landmarks that make Frankfort, Kentucky, a very special place to live and a very special place to visit.